The residents of East Palestine are still going through. All levels of government have failed my fellow Ohioans, and I mean royally. They've been lied to. They've been lied to and disregarded, disrespected, forgotten about, and it's been since the beginning of the derailment, starting in February. Since the very beginning, they ain't put no respect on the name of my family and friends and sisters and brothers in East Palestine. Just no respect at all. And they were told by Governor DeWine and other federal officials that everything was fine, that there was nothing to see here, nothing to worry about. I mean, even the Secretary of Transportation didn't comment on what happened in East Palestine for 10 days. And then he had to be dragged. Thank you, Lover. Had to be dragged before he even came here. And then we got a president of the United States has yet to come to East Palestine, and people are still suffering. And they weren't told the truth. They were lied to. The governor, my governor, this governor, let me just say it that way, had the pure unadulterated gall to drink the water. But let's go ahead, put up this headline. 7 CDC workers fell ill investigating train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. In the days following the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, a group of investigators fell ill while looking into the chemical exposure of residents. Now let's take a quick look back. Some of you may absolutely, I hope that you remember this story. We've covered it many times on Unbossed, and we will continue to cover it because when poor folks and working folks, when everyday people are left behind, you gotta have some news source that's gonna cover it and tell their story. You done found it right here, baby, on TYT. So let's take this quick look back. A Norfolk Sutherland train went off the tracks in East Palestine on February 3rd after a wheel bearing overheated, spilling toxic chemicals into the air, the water, and the soil, according to preliminary findings from the National Transportation Safety Board. Residents evacuated their homes as the company executed a controlled release of vinyl chloride to prevent an explosion. They blew the stuff up in a controlled way. And guess what? Family and friends, sisters and brothers, the stuff went into the air, it went into the soil, it went into the water. That's what happened. 15 investigators from the CDC and Prevention and the Agency for Toxic Substance and Disease Registry were wrapping up their probe of chemical exposure on Monday in East Palestine, in the East Palestine area. But just a few weeks ago, 7 of those investigators themselves may have experienced exactly what they were looking into. I mean, we can't make this stuff up. And what makes this so telling is that you had countless state and federal officials telling the residents of East Palestine that everything was all right then and there, drink the water. And despite the coverage that showed sores and rashes and other independent media sources out there collecting information from the residents, you had these extra special titled folks still lying to the people of East Palestine. Many of you may recall, we went down there ourselves and had the opportunity to talk to folks, and we had a local guide there by the name of John, and it was something to behold. People were angry, they were sad, and they had every right to be because they felt left behind. And then look at this right here, the very people conducting the investigations that fell sick. The residents tried to tell them, yeah, they did. And the governor, as I said, even drank the water while wildlife was dying. The fish were dying. The wildlife was telling us as human beings, hey, something is wrong. Francesca, your thoughts about this developing story?
I mean, we knew this was gonna happen. Everybody knew this was gonna happen, and it's gonna keep on happening. And I'm so glad you're covering it. I'm so glad we continue to stay on this story. And we're gonna have to check in with this spill and many other derailments and spills like it. But this is not going away anytime soon. My thing is, we're at a time coming off the back of, I mean, I don't even know, we're still on the back of the pandemic, but where the CDC has been vehemently demonized, right? And I have my critiques of the CDC and what they didn't do and should have done in different moments of the pandemic. But here you have them deployed in this corporate made, not sort of natural pandemic, right? Not a pandemic situation, but corporate made toxic waste here and spill. And now they're the ones who are also bearing the brunt of it, right? And here's what I want to say is, the CDC is important. It is important to support the CDC. I think it's interesting and sort of fitting the way that they got sick because we knew there were toxic chemicals. But this is this whole story to me is just further proof of why government agencies are important to fund, are important to support, right? And that we can't just let everything go to the train barons and other people who want to use our towns like their toilets.
Yeah, no, we have to have regulators. We got to have people who can inspect. We need people watching. Laissez-faire just does not work. And what is happening to the residents in East Palestine, and then also people in Pennsylvania, this stuff doesn't stop in East Palestine. And then we found out in other reporting that they're taking the soil, this contaminated soil from Ohio, and taking it to places like Texas. Give me a break. This stuff it absolutely makes no sense whatsoever, but they're doing it. And government is poisoning its own people and letting corporations like Norfolk Southern get away with it. Norfolk Southern should bounce. That's what should happen here. They should bounce. So we're gonna keep on telling the story of the residents of East Palestine, because it's East Palestine, it's Flint, Michigan, it's Jackson, Mississippi, it's Cleveland, Ohio, it's Chicago, Illinois. Name your city, baby. It's coming to a city and a place near you, because definitely what affects one directly affects us all indirectly, quoting the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And you know what, Francesca, I'm glad to see that Erin Brockovich, and some people may remember her. There was a great movie made about her. I don't know if that movie is maybe 20, 25 years old.
God,
It was such a
don't
great
make me
movie.
feel old.
Yeah, no, it's okay. You were just a little baby. You don't remember that movie. You remember it because you watched it. You just watched it 10 to 15 years ago. But it was a great movie. Julia Roberts played Erin Brockovich. She's a real badass, is what she is. True, based on a true story. And Erin Brockovich has been engaging with the people of East Palestine. So she's American paralegal, consumer rights activist, a whistleblower. And she tweeted this out, and man, is this not the truth? It is. This was after the all clear. Think about that. This after the folks said everything gonna be all right. This was after the all clear. I know you don't wanna panic, but people need to be able to trust that the information they are getting is accurate. Best wishes to these folks who walked into harm's way to try to help this town. And what Erin is talking about, this is real. You wanna be able to trust what people with extra special titles say, but they were lied to. The residents of East Palestine were lied to, starting with Governor Mike DeWine. And now the very people who are charged with trying to get to the bottom of how dangerous it is or not actually fell sick themselves. Gotta love Erin Brockovich.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she is absolutely masterful.
And this is this is what corporate greed does, and this is what capitalism does. You want to talk about capitalism? You're mad at socialists. You think socialism ruined anything? Look at what capitalism did. That's right there. That's what it did. It treated everyone else like a garbage dump. Didn't take responsibility for its own corporate malfeasance. The bug was the feature. They don't put brakes on their adequate brakes on their train cars. Why? Because they don't want to spend the money. Why? Because they want more money for their shareholders. Why? Because they're buying up all their own shares and overinflating the stock prices. That's capitalism. That's all. It doesn't care about us at all.
At all. Unfettered greed. This is unfettered greed at its worst. They need to put a check on this stuff. But the very people that were asking to put a check on it, the people who were elected to not allow this kind of thing to happen, and that when it does happen, to make sure that the parties involved have to pay a price, they are actually receiving money from these people. And so therefore they let the everyday people like the residents of East Palestine just suffer on through. I'm telling you, we're gonna keep on reporting on this. This is real, and this is gonna have a long-term effect on that community for many, many decades to come. And they need short-term relief and they need long-term relief, and they deserve that relief. Norfolk Southern is being sued right now by the state of Ohio. That is a good thing. And I hope to God that they bounce. This is the time for us to go ahead and talk about nationalizing the railways.